An American man stepped on the soil of Russia to perpetuate an ordinary mission.
That's magnificent.
But this ordinary mission unraveled an abominable scheme threatening lives of millions of Americans on that day. Welcome back to Paramount Recapped. I don't have many subscribers, but your single comment is a ray of hope to motivate me. After the tragic events of September 11th, Jack Ryan, a student at the London School of Economics, LSE, feels compelled to do something meaningful to make a difference. Driven by a deep sense of responsibility, he decides to enlist in the United States Marines. 18 months later, Jack, now a lieutenant, finds himself on a dangerous reconnaissance mission in the snowy mountains of Afghanistan. He is accompanied by two other Marines in a helicopter when one of them asks why someone as educated as Jack would choose to volunteer for such a high-risk mission. Jack simply believes this is the best way to serve his country. As the mission progresses, a private on the helicopter struggles with his harness, and Jack steps in to help him. However, the calm moment is shattered when the chopper is suddenly struck by a missile, causing it to plummet to the ground. In the aftermath of the crash, Jack suffers a broken back and barely clings to life. The doctors are astounded by his ability to rescue his fellow Marines while in such a dire condition. Despite his injuries, Jack is rushed to surgery, where one of the doctors comments that his time in the war is likely over. Jack begins a long and painful recovery at a veteran medical center, where he meets Cathy Mueller, a third-year medical student who is assigned to help him heal. Throughout Jack's rehabilitation, Cathy becomes a source of support and a calming presence. Also keeping a watchful eye on Jack is Thomas Harper, a senior CIA official who plans to meet with Jack once his recovery progresses. A few weeks later, Harper finally meets Jack, introducing himself as a commander of the U.S. Navy. Jack, however, is quick to recognize Harper, who always seems to be watching him, and jokingly mentions he's noticed Harper's attention before. Harper expresses his gratitude for Jack's service and reveals that he is aware of Jack's dissertation and the valuable intelligence he gathered during his tour. Jack is impressed by Harper's knowledge and is curious about how he managed to gather such detailed information. Harper, in turn, shares that he works for the CIA. After months of grueling recovery, it's finally time for Cathy to move on as she completes her rotation at the medical center. During this time, Jack and Cathy have grown close, and Jack invites her to dinner. Cathy, however, promises that she will join him once he's able to run all the way out of the building. They part ways, but Jack soon goes for a run in the rain, only to unexpectedly come across Harper, who is waiting for him in a building. Harper acknowledges Jack's courage, but offers him a new way to serve his country. He proposes that Jack finish his doctorate and become a financial intelligence analyst, working undercover at various banks on Wall Street. His job would be to covertly uncover funding for terrorist organizations. Jack expresses doubts, feeling that the CIA's methods aren't always above board, but Harper assures him that his unit is different. It was specifically created to prevent another tragedy like September 11th. 10 years later, Jack is living in New York, working secretly as a CIA agent while engaged to Cathy. He works as an auditor on Wall Street, analyzing Russian business accounts. This task is made even more critical due to a UN vote on a Turkish pipeline that could undermine Russia's dominance in the oil industry. During the UN vote, the Russian delegate expresses fears that the approval of the pipeline would severely damage Russia's economy, while the U.S. delegate dismisses these concerns. The U.S. delegate's refusal to consider the proposal is seen by Russia as an act of economic warfare. Jack continues his analysis of Russian financial activities and uncovers some suspicious accounts linked to the Russian government. He discreetly meets with a CIA agent working for Harper in a movie theater to discuss his findings. Jack believes that the accounts might point to a larger scheme, and he thinks Harper may need someone in Moscow to investigate further. The agent agrees, knowing that only Jack would be able to fully understand the data and connect the dots. Meanwhile, Cathy, back at their apartment, calls for Jack, but finds no sign of him. Even after she takes a shower, she still hasn't seen him, and while folding his pants, she discovers a movie ticket. This concerns Cathy, and later, she suggests that they go see the same movie, wondering if Jack had ever watched it. Jack avoids answering the question, but he later meets with his Wall Street boss, Rob, to discuss his upcoming trip to Moscow. Jack has discovered hidden accounts belonging to a Russian company that does business with his firm. The company is owned by Russian oligarch Viktor Chevron, and Rob urges Jack not to jeopardize their lucrative partnership by investigating further. Despite the tension, Jack decides to go ahead with his trip to Moscow, but Cathy, sensing something is off, expresses a desire to accompany him. Jack, however, insists that she would be bored, as his work will keep him very busy. Cathy then confronts Jack about the movie ticket she found and accuses him of having an affair, but Jack denies the accusation. He promises to take her on a vacation to Paris once he returns, and she agrees. Jack soon arrives in Moscow, where he is met by Chevron's private security, MB Deng, who is assigned to be his personal bodyguard. After a brief drive to his hotel, Jack is left to check in while MB goes upstairs to inspect his room. But Jack's routine check-in turns deadly when he narrowly avoids being shot by MB Deng. In a desperate attempt to escape, Jack runs into the bathroom, dodging bullets and locking himself inside. MB Deng, determined to find him, kicks down the door and opens fire. Jack manages to take MB by surprise, attacking him from the ceiling and eventually overpowering him. A fight ensues, with Jack finally managing to drown MB in a bathtub. Jack, shaken and exhausted, quickly contacts the CIA, reporting that his life is in danger. The woman on the line instructs him to stay low until he is ready to meet with his contact. Despite his initial hesitation, Jack follows the instructions, though he is still very much out of his element. He is reminded that, despite his new role as an analyst, he is also a Marine. Jack heads back to his hotel room, where he hears the phone ring twice, signaling that it's time to meet his contact. As Jack makes his way to the meeting spot, he notices a taxi cab following him, but it eventually speeds off. Cathy calls him, hoping they can reschedule their Paris trip, but Jack, noticing the same taxi again, breaks the news to her that he won't be able to make it. He reassures her that he loves her and implores her not to lose faith in him. Jack arrives at the meeting spot, where he finds Harper waiting for him. Jack is still visibly shaken, but listens as Harper encourages him, stating that it's better to face the situation after it happens, not during. Jack explains that he discovered Russian accounts containing large sums of US dollars, which seem to be inflating the US dollar. He believes that the Russians are plotting to crash the US economy by collapsing the dollar, and that this will be triggered by a terrorist attack on American soil. Jack suspects that Chevron's system holds the key to the entire scheme, with a program set to execute the sell-off once the attack occurs. Harper listens carefully and assures Jack that he will be fine. He hands Jack a gun, telling him that he is now fully operational. Back in his apartment, which has been cleaned by the CIA, Jack sits and reflects. He texts Cathy, "I love you," and is relieved when he receives a response. The next day, Jack heads to Chevron's office, where he is greeted by Chevron's assistant, who guides him through the security protocols. Jack is told that he will need to be accompanied at all times, which complicates matters. He's led to Chevron's personal office, where they engage in a brief conversation. Chevron asks Jack about his first night in Moscow, and Jack responds that it was rough but manageable. Jack then explains that he's there to do an audit and that he's located hidden accounts, but Chevron quickly denies this. He explains that there's nothing hidden, only secure. To make matters worse, Chevron reveals that he has sold off the companies connected to the accounts Jack discovered, making the audit essentially pointless. Jack, trying to cover up his mistake, invites Chevron to dinner as a way to make amends. Chevron agrees, but insists on picking Jack up from his hotel, claiming that Moscow is dangerous. He casually mentions that his driver, MB, has disappeared. Jack apologizes, feeling guilty for what happened. However, Chevron seems unfazed, even asking if Jack's wife will be joining them. Jack is caught off guard by this, but he explains that Cathy is his girlfriend and will be invited. Later, Jack learns that one of Chevron's men has been following him. He manages to evade the surveillance by slipping into a covert CIA van, reporting back to Harper about the situation. Jack learns that Chevron's assets are being sold, but the CIA still needs the algorithm that would trigger the cash dump. Jack suggests breaking into Chevron's office to steal his key card, but soon realizes he's the only one who knows what files to search for. He returns to his apartment and finds Cathy waiting for him. She's been through her own ordeal to come and see him, but Jack knows that she just wants answers. Cathy had just found Jack's gun, and it was clear something was going on. She confronted him, urging him to come clean. Jack finally admitted the truth. He was with the CIA. Cathy, although relieved that he wasn't having an affair as she had feared, still felt the weight of the revelation. Meanwhile, in Michigan, A Russian Orthodox church was hosting a service, and Alexander was arriving with his parents. A priest at the church took notice of them. After the service, they went back to their home, where Alexander and his parents started hurriedly burning papers. Later, Alexander went for a walk and noticed the same priest following him in a car. Sensing something was wrong, Alexander quickly cut off the car and confronted the driver. Before the driver could react, Alexander swiftly stabbed him in the neck, killing him instantly. But when he checked the man's ID, he was stunned to realize that the priest was actually an FBI agent. Back in the CIA world, Jack revealed more to Cathy about the mission he was on, including his dinner with Chevron. Cathy, although concerned, didn't want to be left out, but Jack insisted she be sent home for her own safety. Jack argued that this kind of life wasn't for her, but Cathy reminded him that if she had known about his job, she would have been by his side all along. The two wanted to talk it over privately, but Harper intervened. He made it clear that they were discussing high-security issues that Cathy shouldn't have been aware of in the first place, and the situation was too risky for them to delay. Harper's plan was to have Jack break into an office next to Chevron's head of security, Limoff. He needed Jack to plug in a device so they could hack Limoff's computer. Harper also needed Cathy to distract Limoff for about 10 minutes to give Jack the time he needed. Jack didn't like it, but Cathy was ready to help. On the way to dinner, Jack and Cathy pretended to have a fight, making it look like their relationship was on the rocks. Cathy even refused to wear her engagement ring, which didn't go unnoticed by the driver. Once they reached the restaurant, Chevron greeted Cathy with a kiss on the hand. Meanwhile, Harper was keeping an eye on Limoff's office and gave Jack the go-ahead when the coast was clear. Jack started acting drunk, making a scene to upset Cathy and annoy Chevron. After a while, Cathy, fed up with his behavior, excused herself to the bathroom, so Chevron decided to escort her. At that moment, a CIA agent stealthily stole Chevron's wallet and handed it off to Jack, who used it to swipe Chevron's access card. Chevron returned to the table with Cathy, but Jack kept up the drunken act, insulting Cathy. She insisted that he take a walk, and Chevron agreed, albeit sternly. Jack stumbled out of the restaurant, but instead of going anywhere else, he rushed straight to the Chevron building. Using the stolen access card, he passed through a biometric scanner and entered the building. He almost got caught by Chevron's assistant, but managed to avoid detection. Jack made it to the office and started hacking into Chevron's system. But just as he was making progress, he got an alert that Limoff was speeding back to the office, which triggered Chevron's assistant to head back to the building too. Jack was racing against the clock, now only having 3 minutes to finish the hack. Just as the system demanded an access code, Jack reached out to Rob for help. Rob provided him with the code, and Jack completed the hack. But the tension wasn't over. Limoff had arrived, and Harper ordered Jack to get out of the building. Jack stuck to his task, grabbing the crucial information before the armed security guards started closing in. Harper helped by getting Jack access to Chevron's private elevator, but once inside, their communication was cut off. Meanwhile, Chevron, completely engrossed in conversation with Cathy, ignored a call from his assistant. When the assistant eventually showed up at the restaurant, she alerted him to the issue. Harper, watching from his vantage point, saw Jack heading for the outside staircase while security guards moved in. Without hesitation, Harper grabbed his sniper rifle and started taking out the guards, clearing the way for Jack. Chevron, on his way back to the office with Cathy, didn't notice anything until a female agent from the CIA, watching from a parked van, jumped out and grabbed Chevron's access card from Jack. She bumped into Chevron on her way back, returning the card to him. Jack, now spotted by Limoff, was searched for the key card. However, Chevron found Jack's key card and wallet on him. Jack apologized for his earlier behavior, and he and Cathy left the restaurant. Later, Limoff reviewed the security footage and realized what had happened. In a fit of rage, he killed one of his own men for failing to notice Jack's true identity. Back at the CIA safe house, Jack explained to Cathy that the cash dump was set to trigger soon, meaning the terrorist attack was imminent. But before they could make a plan, men sent by Chevron stormed the safe house and started shooting. Jack and Cathy barely managed to escape. Jack immediately jumped into a car with another CIA agent and sped off to find Cathy. It turned out that a tracker had been placed in the ring Cathy was wearing, and soon Harper had her location. They tracked her to a spot where Chevron was waiting in a van. He threatened Jack, saying he would hurt Cathy if Jack transmitted the stolen files. Jack, trying to protect her, lied that only he had the files. Chevron, furious, told Cathy to talk to him, but she refused. Enraged, he slapped her and then grabbed her by the neck, threatening to kill her in a gruesome way if Jack tried to double-cross him. Meanwhile, Jack raced towards their truck with Harper guiding him. He spotted the van, but was cut off by a garbage truck, causing the car to crash. Jack feared he had lost them, but Harper quickly directed him around a roundabout. Jack grabbed a metal pipe and rushed forward just as Chevron was about to insert a light bulb into Cathy's mouth. Jack launched himself at Chevron, knocking the driver out, which caused the car to crash. Jack grabbed Cathy and wanted to take out Chevron, but the CIA agents pulled him away. They escaped in another car. On board a CIA plane, the agents linked Alexander to the upcoming terror attack. They raided his house and found burnt documents, which led them to suspect he was a sleeper agent. However, Jack made the connection that Alexander was actually Chevron's son, who had been presumed dead years ago. After further digging, the agents confirmed that Alexander had been smuggled into the USA under a false identity and fake parents. The agents lost track of him after the last raid, but Jack quickly used his sharp analytical skills to locate Alexander's whereabouts. He found a barn in Pennsylvania where Alexander was hiding. Jack's persistence led him to discover that the attack would take place on Wall Street, Manhattan. The FBI agents rushed to the barn, only to find that Alexander had already left in a repainted van. Jack and his team headed to New York, hoping to track the van. Jack and Cathy parted ways, and Jack joined Harper in a helicopter. As they flew towards Manhattan, emergency vehicles flooded the area, and the police were on a manhunt for the van. Jack soon realized that Alexander's van was the same model as police vehicles. He scanned the passing vans and finally spotted one with fresh paint. Unable to reach Harper, Jack hopped on a motorcycle and sped after the van. As Jack chased the van, the call with Harper dropped, and Alexander noticed Jack following him. Alexander sped into an underground tunnel, but Jack kept up with him. In a desperate attempt to shake Jack off, Alexander slammed on the brakes, causing Jack to crash into the van. Alexander continued his escape, but eventually came to a stop under a ventilation chimney. Jack caught up, and the two fought. During the scuffle, Jack realized the size of the explosives inside the van. The two exchanged heavy punches, but Jack managed to overpower Alexander and reach the van. Harper, leading a team of FBI agents, arrived at the scene but found that the van was missing. Jack was now driving the van away from the building, and Harper directed him toward the water. It turned out that Alexander was still in the van, trying to activate the bomb. Jack wrestled with him, throwing him around as they neared the water. Once Jack had the van aimed towards the water, he locked the steering wheel and tackled Alexander, both of them falling from the van as it plunged into the water and exploded. A short time later, Chevron, back in his office, received a call. He left to meet with his conspirators in the woods, but before he could do anything, he was killed to cover their tracks. Jack and Cathy finally reunited, sharing a long-awaited embrace. Later, Jack and Harper were summoned to the White House to brief the president on their next steps. They had stopped the disaster. Thanks for watching, everyone. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to get a thumbs up, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you won't miss any of our future content. Drop your thoughts or any suggestions in the comments below. I love hearing from you. Until next time, take care, stay awesome, and I'll catch you in the next video.